I am extremely grateful to the large number of honourable members who have spoken on this bill, most of whom have supported this bill. Sir, the debate was started by Shri Shamsher Singh Dhullo, who made a very valid point. एक बहुत जायज़ सवाल उन्होंने उठाया कि अलग अलग ट्रांजैक्शंस में देश में लोग काला धन इकट्ठा कर लेते हैं और ये एक कदम उठाया जा रहा है कि उस काले धन को रोकने के लिए। ये उनका सही एक विश्लेषण था इस बिल के मामले में। मैं केवल इतना आग्रह करना चाहूँगा कि काले धन को लेकर कम से कम हम लोग जो कानून बनाते हैं, हम लोगों के अपना विचार स्पष्ट होना चाहिए। काला धन है, देश में भी है और विदेशों में भी है, ये एक वास्तविकता है। केवल ये कहना कि आखिरी कानून बना दो और उसके बाद समाप्त हो जाएगा, ये अपने आप में पर्याप्त तर्क नहीं है। अब काले धन को अगर रोकना है तो कानून का भी डर होना चाहिए। कानून के डर के साथ साथ जहां वो काला धन जनरेट होता है वहां पर किस हद तक रोक लग सकती है वो प्रयास होना चाहिए, और जहां उसका प्रयोग होता है उसके ऊपर भी कहीं ना कहीं सरकार की नजर और उसके संबंध में कदम होने चाहिए। अगर हम इसमें दो मन के रहे, इफ वी रिमेन कंफ्यूज्ड कि कुछ होने वाला नहीं है, तब यह परिस्थिति सुधरने की संभावना नहीं है। अब काले धन के संबंध में जब पहली जानकारियां सरकारों को आई, विदेशों में HSBC अकाउंट्स की, उनके असेसमेंट्स कंप्लीट किए गए, जिन लोगों के नाजायज निकले उन पे क्रिमिनल केसेस चलाए गए। लिंचनस्टाइन में बैंक अकाउंट्स की जानकारियां मिली, उसके संबंध में केसेस चलाए गए। उसके बाद इंटरनेशनल कंसोर्टियम ऑफ जर्नलिस्ट, उन्होंने एक नई लिस्ट छापी, उसके संबंध में एक एक केस जो उसमें भारत का आया उसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन हुई, उसके संबंध में कार्रवाई हो रही है। पनामा लीक्स जब आए तो एक मल्टी एजेंसी ग्रुप बनाया गया, उसमें कई लोग ऐसे थे जिनके बिल्कुल नाजायज अकाउंट्स थे, डिटेल्स हैं। कई लोग ऐसे थे जो कहते हैं कि उन्होंने रिजर्व बैंक की अनुमति से कुछ व्यवसाय किया या बाहर पैसा रखा। अब उसकी छानबीन भी बहुत आगे बढ़ चुकी है। ब्लैक मनी लॉ जो आया उसके तहत लगभग 600 से ऊपर लोगों ने डिक्लेरेशन किया और 60% टैक्स दिया। ये सब कदम हैं जिससे कानून इन्फोर्स भी होता है, कानून का डर भी लगता है। अभी सरकार की इनकम डिस्क्लोजर स्कीम चल रही है कि जिस व्यक्ति के पास ऐसी आमदनी है जो टैक्स नेट को अवॉइड कर गई, तो उसके संबंध में 45% टैक्स देकर वो 30 सितंबर तक उसको डिक्लेयर कर सकता है। जहां ये जनरेट होता है पैसा, उसके संबंध में कई सख्ती बताई गई। इस्तेमाल में जो पैन कार्ड की हम लोगों ने लिमिट्स लगाई, लेकिन अगर हमारा रवैया ये बन गया ये तो बहुत सख्ती है, ये टेररिज्म है, जिनके पास पैन कार्ड नहीं है क्या करेंगे, तो केवल एक एप्लीकेशन देने की जरूरत है, नेट के ऊपर दे सकते हैं, तुरंत उनको पैन कार्ड मिल जाएगा। इस देश में 25 करोड़ परिवार हैं। मुझे आज की संख्या मालूम नहीं, लेकिन कुछ समय पहले तक 22-23 करोड़ पैन कार्ड इशू हो चुके थे, और इसलिए वो पैन कार्ड बनने में कोई तकलीफ नहीं है। जो व्यक्ति टैक्स नेट के बाहर है उसको टैक्स देने की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन जैसे यूआईडी कार्ड होता है, पैन कार्ड उसी प्रकार का एक सबूत है, और टैक्स नेट से बाहर है लेकिन लाखों रुपए की परचेज कर सकता है, और जो लाखों रुपए की खरीदारी कर सकता है वो एक नेट के ऊपर पैन कार्ड भी उपलब्ध कर सकता है। तो हम लोगों का अपना मन स्पष्ट रहे तो इस संबंध में कार्रवाई हो सकती है। अब कई प्रश्न उठाए गए एक उसमें कहा गया कि जमीन के जो रिकॉर्ड्स हैं उसको डिजिटाइज किया जाए। ये बहुत अच्छा सुझाव है, राज्य सरकारें कर रही हैं। इस साल के बजट में भी मैंने घोषणा की थी कि हम राज्य सरकारों की जो सहायता करते हैं उसमें हमारी अपेक्षा ये है कि धीरे धीरे पूरे देश के लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स अपने आप में डिजिटाइज हो जाएं। इसके संबंध में कई प्रश्न उठे। अभी नरेश गुजराल जी ने कहा कि जिन लोगों ने बेनामी लैंड सीलिंग से बचने के लिए किया था पुराने जमाने में, what happens to them? Now, if you see the covenants of the 1988 bill and the present law, the offense is made out whoever enters into a transaction. The entering into a transaction would necessarily mean that it comes into operation post 1988. So pre 1988 transactions would not be covered. In any case, prior to 1988, the Indian Trust Act had certain provisions which permitted Benami ownership. By virtue of the 1988 Act, Section 7, the provisions of Section 81, 82, 94 have been repealed. So those provisions which permitted a Benami ownership prior to 1988 were repealed by the 1988 Act, and therefore only those would be offences which are entered into after the coming into force of the 1988 Act itself. Who would be liable to prosecution? Section 53 is very clear that whoever enters into a Benami transaction, and in a transaction there are two people who enter into it. Obviously, aiding and abetting a crime is also an offence, and any person who's involved in it would certainly be covered. Shri Naresh Agrawal asked various questions as to what will happen if the property is in the name of a director but the money has come from the company. Already in this act there is an exception that if you hold it as a fiduciary of the company, as a director, then it is not an offence. If you hold it as a trustee of a trust, it's not an offence. So fiduciary holding is allowed as an exception to Benami even under this act. It was also allowed under the 1988 Act. What if it is held, the resources have come from a family member? This is exactly what the standing committee went into. That the earlier phrase was that you have purchased this property, you must show out of your known sources of income. So the income had to be personal. Members of the standing committee felt that the family can contribute to it, you can take a loan from somebody, you can take a bank loan, that is not your income. Therefore, the words income have been deleted and now the word is only known sources. So if a brother or a sister or a son has contributed to this, this itself would not make it would not make it Benami, because we know that's how the structure of the family itself is. He then raised a question that difficulties will arise, what about properties which are undervalued? This law doesn't deal with valuation. Valuation is dealt with by the income tax law. If you undervalue a property, it is dealt with by the income tax law. This only deals with those properties which are not in the consideration is provided by somebody else and the name is that of a Benami. So whether it is adequately valued or inadequately valued is a legitimate subject matter of the Income Tax Act, not of the Benami Act itself. As far as power of attorneys are concerned, I have already said that properties which are transferred in part performance of a contract and possession is given, that possession has been protected conventionally under Indian law under Section 53 capital A of the Transfer of Property Act. That is how all the power of attorney transactions in Delhi are protected, even though the legitimate title is not perfect and legitimate. Now, those properties have also been kept out under the recommendation made as far as the standing committee is concerned. Properties in tribal areas, etc. Now, those properties, there is no provision to exempt those properties under the Benami Act. But the power to exempt the operation of any central law in a scheduled area under Article 244(1), read with Schedule 5, is with the governor of the state. So if there is a scheduled area that is where the tribals are located, and these are scheduled areas. The power is there under the constitution itself to exempt the operation of this act in those areas, and therefore no separate provision is required to be made under this act. What happens if the asset is outside the country? If the asset is outside the country, it would not be covered under this act, it would be covered under the black money law. Because then you are owning a property or an asset outside the country. Why have 4 layers of officers and then an appeal tribunal been created? After all, this is a very major power, it's a penal power. Under a penal power, a property is being acquired and taken over by the state. When the government is going to take over the state, members themselves have expressed the view at times there is misuse of power by one officer or the other. And that is why, to deal with the case at different level, as a check and balance operation, there are different officers of different hierarchies who will, so the whole issue will go through 4 different stages. And if finally the adjudicating officer passes an order, it will be subject to an appeal, which will be heard by a tribunal which is of the nature of a judicial tribunal itself. A question has been raised as to when the property is vested in the central government. Under the 88 Act, the property was to be confiscated. Now, confiscation is on a compensation, but that provision was not clear in the 88 Act. Today, under the present Act, it is deemed to be vested in the central government. Now, the argument is it should be vested in the state. Now, as far as the powers of vesting are concerned, or the powers of acquisition are concerned, there are subject matters of central jurisdiction and there are subject matters of state jurisdiction. There is a concurrent list. Now, state governments also have a power to acquire a property or confiscate a property under a particular circumstance. There are several state legislations where an asset can be acquired by the state as areas of land revenue itself, and those assets can be acquired. So those will vest in the state. But then those which are acquired or vested under a central legislation don't go to the state government. For instance, you have a power under the Narcotics Act, the NDPS Act. You have a power under the Smugglers Confiscation of Property Act. Now, all properties and assets which are confiscated for violating a central law will vest in the central government. Income Tax Act is a central law. Now, if you violate the provisions of the Income Tax Act and generate a lot of black money, and that black money is used to buy a property benami, then the acquisition has to be by the central government because you have evaded the taxes of the central government. And therefore, the vesting of the property can't be in any other authority. 2 questions that Mr. Rajiv Shukla had raised. One is, what if part of the property is benami? Now, only the benami part will be acquired. Then, of course, that part of the property which is not benami, for example, there is a 20-floor building, 10 floors are in your own name and 10 floors are held benami. The ones which are in your own name won't be acquired. The ones which are benami will be acquired.
I do have 20 floors.
And
I don't think so.
And the last question is with regard to the power of arrest, which Mr. Naresh Agrawal and Mr. Rajiv Shukla also made. Now, under these fiscal violations, what should be the extent of power of arrest? We are trying to rationalize that power. I remember that in some of the budgets, which were even presented by the previous government, very strict penal provisions of arrest and bail had come up. I had opposed some of them when I was sitting on the other side, and I remember that then Finance Minister Shri Pranab Mukherjee ji had then accepted the suggestion and diluted those provisions itself. Now, we have been in the process of examining the provisions under the taxation laws, the powers of arrest, etc. For example, this time our service tax law, there were 6-7 grounds on which you can arrest. We have now limited it to cases where tax is collected but not deposited. Now, that even otherwise would be breach of trust or cheating. You take the money in the name of the government from the third party and don't deposit it. So, it is being now increasingly diluted. The trend world over is to replace it with, as much as possible, with high penalties as far as taxation is concerned. But since this is a benami law, like the black money law, there have to be a deterrent provisions which we have put in this particular law. And I hope people get the clear signals and don't give the state a great opportunity as far as using this law is concerned. With these few words, sir, I commend the bill for acceptance of the House.
कि हम लोग हैं ऐसे दीवाने, दुनिया को बदल के मानेंगे, मंजिल की धुन में आए हैं, मंजिल को पाके मानेंगे। वो मंजिल था कांग्रेस हटाओ देश बचाओ, कांग्रेस हटाया देश बचाया।